Are you? We talked about this just very very briefly, but the expectations for the season have obviously changed. I mean, do you expect to get to a bowl? Like, what are your thoughts, Richie? If you're having to like readjust kind of your thinking, do you expect to like split with the rivals, get to a bowl? Like, what goals do you have goals for the team going forward? Or what are your thoughts?
I do think we get to a bowl. I'm trying not to overreact so much to the first 2 weeks of the season, but I do think that this is a team that there's enough talent, and the schedule's not that tough. Cal, shout out Cal, they had an impressive performance against Auburn yesterday, but I think that's a team that you can beat as well. Uh, I do think Florida State gets to a bowl game. It's not going to be a bowl game that anyone wants to go to or care about. I'm hoping it's the Pop Tarts Bowl. I love Pop Tarts. That would be awesome. But it's just not. I do think this team finishes the season at minimum 6-6, and honestly, I would still probably bet a little better than that. They're not going to beat the better teams on the schedule. They're just not going to do it. Clemson, Miami, those are losses, but the other teams that are around the same, you know, uh, as you, I think you can have a chance to beat them. I think this is probably a 7-5. I might even stretch it and shock you, TJ, and put an 8-4 possible team. I do think that's possible here.
Yeah, you just got to get better quick, and you got to hope that that bye week really worked. To me, they're still so much more talented than really most teams on their
Yeah.
roster. Notre Dame's not very good. I still don't really know that you go up there and beat them, but they look like
Shout
a
out Northern
dumpster.
Illinois real quick. Shout them
Yeah,
out.
Notre Dame doesn't look good. SMU doesn't look good. North Carolina doesn't look good. I'm sorry, Duke not very good. You can beat Cal. You can beat Memphis. And then who knows what Florida's going to be at the end of the year? We'll learn a lot more about UF when they play A&M this weekend and what they do with that quarterback battle. I actually do think Lagway will be playing by the time they play us, and so, but
Yeah.
their offensive lines about their trenches are about as playing as poorly as ours are, and so um, you certainly could. The problem is that is certainly a glass half full perspective because the glass half empty is almost all those teams that I just mentioned are just as good, if not better than BC. Uh, like, and
Oh,
so
God.
that's what's tough, right? It really is on them. Now they're more talented. Florida State's more talented than almost everybody they're gonna play. Um, they've got the pieces. The schedule sets up for them well. They got more buys than anybody else. They play some teams at home that you'd like to get at home. Um, some of the road games like Notre Dame, you probably think are not as challenging as they once were. SMU probably not as intimidating as it once was. But they got to go out and play, right? And it
Yeah.
all starts with
Yeah.
Memphis. We talked about Memphis in another segment, but it all starts with them. If you beat Memphis, you start to instill a little bit of confidence of like, oh wow, we know what winning feels like. We can taste it. We can go. We've seen Mike Norvell teams turn around before, right? We've seen an 0-4 start turn into 5-3 down the stretch, and those three losses came against teams you were significant underdogs against. In Clemson, Florida, and NC State. That NC State game where half the team missed with the flu and didn't play. And then Clemson and Florida, you were absolutely right in those games and lost them late. So we've seen turnarounds before. I'll say I don't know, man. I think that 0-4 felt every bit as bleak as this did, because we didn't know at that point that the program knew how to win. And at least with this one, you've gone 0-2, you've kind of been shell shocked. But I think the program does actually know how to win. The coaches know how to actually coach winning. And now, whether or not they do that, different story. I can't project that. I can't predict what they'll actually do. But the program does know how to win. And so, getting that taste of a victory against Memphis, yeah, I would project them to get to a bowl at this point. If they lose to Memphis, I'm 100% out on them being able to. I can't see a situation where they only lose 3 games down the stretch, mostly because I think Notre Dame, Clemson, and Miami are losses. And so you'd be telling me they go perfect in their other 6 games. I'm not sure I can buy that just yet. Is it possible? Anything's possible. But if you're adjusting expectations, I think the biggest data point that you got left is Memphis, and then you're going to know whether or not this team can make a bowl. If they beat Memphis, I kind of expect them to beat Cal. I kind of expect them to beat SMU. I kind of expect them to beat North Carolina and Duke and Charleston Southern. There's your 6 wins. You could even lose to Florida, Miami, Clemson, Notre Dame, and you still find a way to a bowl. I think they beat Florida at this point still. And then if you find one more, that's where Richie's getting real crazy with that 8 wins. I'm not there yet, but I could see 6 or 7. Six is probably the most likely to me. They just have so much talent, and I think eventually it's going to click. maybe I'm just speaking life into something that I shouldn't be speaking life into. But and again, we're super positive. I think they can well, they're not turn it around, but I think they could salvage a bowl game. If you can get to 7 and then you get to 8 in a bowl game, because everybody's going to play. Nobody's like nobody that matters is opting out. Um, I think you can. That's where your expectations need to be. You need to split with your rivals. Obviously, one of them going to be much easier than the other one. Split with your rivals and get to a bowl.
I'll get right back to chatting about Florida State football, but first I want to take a very quick second and tell you guys about Survival Meds. I've told you about them a couple of times, but they have some awesome supplements that they've sent me, and I've tried, and I've loved the results. They've got not only a daily, pretty standard multivitamin that's called their Force Multiplier, but my favorite is their Test Fire, because after just a few days, I've noticed a difference in my energy levels. Got more to come with them soon, but as of now, if you feel like your energy is dropping or you just know you need to be on a multivitamin because life's getting after you and you're getting a little bit older, go check out my friends over at Survival Meds. Listen, they do extremely good work in not only our law enforcement community, but also they do great work with our vets, retired and active military. Make sure that you go check out Survival Med, some of the best in the business that you can get. I've had a great experience with them so far, and I'm excited to tell you about more of them in the future.
Yeah, I think honestly, in Miami's going to be tough. Cam Ward is a very good quarterback. You win a state championship, whether you go 6-6, 7-5, 8-4, it doesn't matter. At this point, where we are right now, at this point in the season, you just chalked it up as a success because it sucks. You wanted to be in the college football playoff in the first ever 12-team playoff. That's off the table at this point, unless you win the next 10 games, which just is not going to happen. As much as I would love to lie to all of you, that's not going to happen. But you could still win the state championship. And again, the Miami game is going to be an uphill battle. That's going to be, Mike Norvell, that's going to be the climb. But Florida, that's a game you should probably win, even as bad as you played through 2 weeks. Again, I hate to overreact to just 2 weeks through the season. So I'm not going to. I do think, again, I just said 8-4 is on the table for me. And that would mean going 8-2 in the final 10 games. We'll see what happens, but we'll be back Wednesday night and do a full preview of Memphis, and hopefully I'm picking Florida State to win that game.
Yeah, it's tough to know right now, but I guess we'll see when we get there. So, all right, any shout outs, Richie, and we'll go ahead and get out of here.